since 25 years, we have been collecting data on the clean cooking issue across the world, since 25 years. And we publish this data every year in our annual report, World Energy Outlook, the reference book for the global energy industry, looking at what is happening in the world. And when we look at the numbers, it was a global issue, a problem, but it is becoming a problem more and more focused on sub-Saharan Africa. According to our numbers, dear colleagues, today, still, 4 out of 5 families use open fire or basic stoves for preparing a meal. And the fumes, the toxins coming from that cooking practices are causing respiratory diseases, especially for women and children. And each year, more than 500,000 people, mainly women and children, die prematurely because of the respiratory diseases, because of this cooking practices. For us, for IEA, I am sure for all of you, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable today, in this century, in 21st century. And to fix this problem, to solve this problem, you don't need to discover new technology. You don't need a huge amount of budgets. You need good financial resources and right policies to implement. So it is the reason we thought at the IEA, in addition to data, providing data, policy recommendations, we have another important characteristics. We provide concrete results. We thought we initiate to convene a summit where we bring governments around the world, industry leaders around the world, development institutions and the others, first to get fresh, new financial commitments to raise this issue, and the second, come up with a roadmap to use this money. It is the reason today, with our 3 co-chairs, we are going to see that the several governments, private sector representatives are going to announce financial commitments, pledges to address this problem at this very meeting.
Over 900 million Africans rely on unclean cooking solutions, a fact which contributes to environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, and the health hazards. As we see it, clean cooking in Africa has 3 dimensions. Foremost is the lack of access to adequate, affordable, and sustainable solutions. Many households, predominantly in the rural areas, struggle to adopt clean cooking solutions due to high costs, limited availability, and insufficient supply chains. The second dimension is lack of global attention, insufficient funding, and lack of awareness about the economic opportunities with the clean cooking industry that hamper efforts to scale interventions. Moreover, development of the needed solution is limited by insufficient research and innovation. The third factor is absence of smart partnerships to ensure clean cooking access for all. Emphasis must be put on realizing possible, affordable, and tailor-made solutions, and on sustainable responses through development of clean cooking fuels and technologies in Africa. The key role of gas in just energy transition has to be recognized. Excellencies, amidst these challenges, Central to Tanzania's own commitment is delivering on our recent launched 10-year Clean Cooking National Strategy, which aims to ensure that 80% of Tanzanians use clean cooking solutions by the year 2034. A national fund will be established to support clean cooking, and the Prime Minister will provide high-level oversight of implementation of the strategy. Furthermore, given the disproportionate burden faced by women, Tanzania will continue to advocate the African Clean Cooking Support Program not to only address the environmental and health impacts, but also empower women as agents of change within their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, effectively advancing the clean cooking agenda in Africa would help protect the environment by increased use, development, access to clean cooking solutions. Increased access would provide women more opportunities to engage in other productive economic activities, arresting cycles of poverty and inequality. On the other hand, reduced use of biomass fuels would slash exposure rates to toxic fumes and save lives. We are confident that this is achievable. The lessons learned in Brazil, India, and Indonesia serve as prime examples, and in Africa, Ghana stands as an example with lessons to share.
This momentous summit is the largest ever gathering of leaders and decision makers dedicated to confronting the urgent issue of lack of access to clean cooking in Africa. It is very timely, and it must be decisive. It is shocking that 1.2 billion people in Africa, that means basically 1.2 billion women, do not have access to clean cooking solutions. They rely on biomass, wood, and charcoal to cook. These hardworking women who cook for their families and their girls spend several hours looking for and collecting firewood and charcoal. With bent backs, they carry loads of firewood and charcoal and walk several kilometers just to be able to cook a decent meal for their families, things we all take for granted. And how can this be? Why must we allow such a thing to happen? Africa loses 600,000 women and children annually from the effects of secondary smoke from partial combustion of biomass, firewood, and charcoal. And that means we will lose 6 million people in 10 years if we don't change that, and that's not acceptable. It's estimated globally that the health cost alone from impaired health is in the order $1.4 trillion, according to the International Energy Agency, with over half of that, $700 billion, being in Africa. As a kid, I'm not wearing glasses just because I went to university or anything like that. I started wearing as a kid because I spent most of my time collecting firewood and charcoal and blowing into the stoves. I lost a friend of mine. She, like us in low-income neighborhood, they couldn't afford gas or anything like that. And she had gone to buy kerosene from one of the gas stations close by. They poured petrol into the cylinder for her. She went home, she tried to cook, she died. So did all her family. How can this be? Why do we let things like that happen? Access to clean cooking is more than cooking. It is about human dignity, fairness, justice, and equity for women. It is more than lighting of the stoves. It is about life itself. The imperative of clean cooking is clear and overwhelming for the environment and climate change, and Madam President Samia had laid it out with the Prime Minister and also Dr. Birol. Access to clean cooking will save at least, according to their estimates of IEA, 200 million hectares of forest globally, with 110 million of that being in Africa by 2030. Universal access to clean cooking will reduce greenhouse gas emissions globally by 1.9 gigatons of CO2 equivalent, which is equal to all the emissions from airplanes and ships today, again, according to the IEA. Providing universal access to clean cooking, therefore, is right, fair, just, and the globally responsible thing to do. Our gathering here today will take decisive actions to solve this problem, and I know that we can, at scale, once and for all, for women and girls, for life, for the environment, and for dignity itself. The solutions for clean cooking are well known, from liquefied petroleum gas, LPGs, natural gas for use for electricity to allow for electric stoves or e-cooking, use of ethanol and biogas. We know, at least I know, of the so-called improved clean cooking stoves that I'm not denigrating it at all because I used it as a kid. But they simply give you thermal efficiency in the use of heat for cooking, but they still rely on firewood, on charcoal, or biomass. So let's be clear. There is nothing improved in continued suffering.